On the bench today we have a Uniden PRO538W. I think this one was kind of sold and marketed more to like RV people, possibly truck drivers too, but this is the kind of radio a lot of times, the look, the front firing speaker, yeah, they were originally marketed more towards RV people. So you'd go into a camper center and they'd have stuff like this on the shelf to sell. And not a bad little radio. Customer sent this one in. Actually, this came in with a bunch of other radios from the same customer, but I think he said this one's, to fix this one up for his brother, wouldn't turn on. That was a fairly simple, easy repair. No fuse in a fuse holder. So put a fuse in it, it came on. Now, I had a problem with this. The problem that wasn't a problem. It was me. I was the problem. So it did not come with a microphone. And so I powered it up. It's just a CB, normal, 40 channel CB with 3 weather channels. How complicated can it be? So, I put a fuse in it, power it up, hook it up to a dummy load, grab a mic, standard Cobra Uniden 4-pin mic wiring, hook a mic up to it, switch my communications test set over there, the dummy load, talk into the mic, and, I key the mic, and I've got good power, but I talk, and nothing. And power microphone cranked up the whole way, all but yelling, at the top of my lungs into the microphone. Yeah, it had modulation. Hook it up to a signal generator. 10 millivolts should easily get pretty much any radio to 100% modulation and way over. Yeah, it wouldn't, no modulation almost. You'd be lucky if you had like 5% with 10 millivolts peak to peak, input into the audio. And I'm like, man, what the hell is wrong with this thing? So, do some troubleshooting. But the thing is, it would do full modulation. If you crammed a shitload of audio into the mic jack, modulation was fine. It'd go right to 100% modulation. Absolutely no problem. Get to doing some more searching. Yeah, user error. Should have looked at the service manual. So we grabbed the service manual, and you come into the alignment procedure. Because remember, this did not come with a microphone. The microphone that's hooked up to it belongs to me. So I get in here, and you get to looking at microphone, electrete condenser type. Now it's not uncommon to use, electrete microphone cartridges, and a lot of the more modern radios, they're little tiny guys. They look almost like a cut-off electrolytic capacitor, really short, in a little aluminum metal can. They had a little piece of grill cloth across one end and 2 little solder tabs on the other side. They're tiny little things. And they actually work really well. But there's different types. Well, this one takes a electrete condenser type, and it's a powered microphone. And I quickly realized that if you turn the page, like 2 more pages here, and you get over to here, and you look down here, and it says, DC stopping capacitor is required for MC, meaning microphone, signal input line, since DC current appears on pin number 2, which is the audio. Yeah, it's got about 5 volts on pin 2. So you take a DC voltmeter on the back side of the front circuit board, stick it on there. Yeah, there's about 5 volts on pin 2. So that's when it dawned on me. You nitwit. It takes a powered electrete condenser microphone. So I dug through the graveyard of microphones. I've got hundreds and hundreds of the blasted things. Finally found one of these little Unidens here that actually says electrete condenser on the back. Not just electrete, but electrete condenser. Sometimes you'll see one of the other words, but yeah, I wanted to make sure. Hook that up. Yeah, with this thing, modulation's perfect. So yeah, user error. So really didn't need anything other than a fuse and an alignment. That was pretty much it. It's in good condition. I need to clean the controls and clean the faceplate. It may not show up because of the dark gray color, but it is actually, it's got, I don't know if somebody spilled or splashed soda or something onto the front of it, but yeah, the channel 9 button, we go into CB. There's my antenna falls over back there. It's kind of sticky. It hangs up. Yeah, see, I can push it, and you almost got to snap it to get it to pop back out. But So stick it back over to the weather channel there. Like I said, I just have a, matter of fact, I can just pop it out of here because I didn't even have it screwed on. Just have a simple little one of these, because the bench antenna that I use here runs through a low-pass filter, so I can't listen to the weather channel off of that, because the low-pass filter doesn't just block frequencies of, above 30 megahertz on the way out. It also blocks any signals above 30 megahertz coming in. So yeah, it's one thing to keep in mind. If you have a low-pass filter hooked up to your antenna, weather radios won't work. So I just stick this little guy in here. Now, of course, when you do the alignment, the communications test set over here is actually still set up for that. You can see I've got it set to 162.475, 3 kilohertz FM deviation. So, but with nothing more than that little whip antenna sitting inside of an extremely noisy room, and I mean noisy by electrically, not noisy and there's a lot of volume, but yeah, you try and listen to the radio, the CB. Matter of fact, we can just, lots of, you can see it's showing S9. Now, if I hook up to an external antenna, of course, that's what drops way down. But off that little guy, yeah, there's just all this electronic equipment in here. I've got, well, hell, currently I've got 2 batteries. I've got a lithium-ion battery charger, a nickel-metal hydride battery charger plugged in at the moment. I've got a tablet, a cell phone sitting over there charging. Yeah, this is static central sitting right here. But yeah, you flip over to weather. This has actually the AM receive sensitivity in this is actually surprising. It's actually really good. But weather channel has really good reception on weather channel. So here I can pick up now this radio only has 3 weather channels. More modern radios, like some of the Cobra WX versions, they have, is it 9? I think they put like up to 9 weather channels in those. But they only have 3 in this, and they pick basically the 3 most popular ones, the ones that are used a lot pretty much all around the country. But, matter of fact, you can hear that. That's actually one of the battery chargers. I can just barely make out a station on channel 1. 2, yeah, there's nothing there. But 3, that's actually my most local NOAA weather radio is Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. But actually, I gotta think here. Channel 3. I'd have to actually look that up. Channel 3 is what? 162.475. Actually, that's... Is that? Yeah, that is Harrisburg. But, yep, like I say, just a simple little whip antenna sitting inside of a very electrically noisy room. Picks up just fine. So, internally, they're not super fancy, very minimalist, I guess you could call them. And surprising, like I say, they actually receive rather well. These little radios often surprise. It's been a long time since I had one of these. Because this is the kind of radio, a lot of times when they break, people just throw them in a trash can. It's not a high-dollar radio. It wasn't a high-dollar radio when it was new. But they're actually nice little radios. The lack of complexity actually makes them, if nothing else, more durable. There's less shit to break in this radio than, a lot of your more advanced radios. So just that in itself makes it more reliable. There's not as much shit there. Now this one has a modification. This is not aftermarket. This is a factory circuit board. But my service manual, the factory service manual right here, does not have this board in it. They actually show, looking at the schematics not going to do you any good, but the board layout, they actually show L5 and FT2. So there's FT, that's a little filter right there. Okay, that's your AM filter, 455 filter. But you see how everything's located on the board. They show L5, tunable coil or transformer, whatever it is. It's probably a transformer. Where are we? L5, yeah, transformer. But they only show one. So at some point in time, it looks like Uniden came out with a modification to add basically an extra stage. And they achieved it rather simply by, they just have you can, I don't know how well they'll show up, but right there's some header pins, and right here, and they just go down to the main board below it. So what they did is they basically removed a couple components down there, moved them up to this board, and added another IF stage. Another tunable coil, another amplifier stage there. So I'm assuming that the reception on these on AM was so-so, probably. And I can't think of any reason that a manufacturer would add a whole nother stage to a radio later than that. That it sucked on receive, probably. So, if you have one of these, if you take the bottom cover off and you look in the radio and you don't have this, I'd almost be curious to see if somebody has a bunch of these things, find one that doesn't have it, find one that does have it, turn them both on, hooked up to, and switch back and forth between antennas or a signal generator and see which one's more sensitive. I'd have to say this one's probably a lot better. Because like I say, it's actually very quiet. Good receiver. But like I say, very simple inside. Nothing fancy going on the bottom side here. They just have a few little bodge parts on the bottom. Not uncommon for manufacturers to do that. It's a lot of times it's just simpler to put a part bodged on the bottom of a circuit board than it is to completely redesign the whole radio. And it's not that they forgot to put the part there. Where's a good example? Actually, that little resistor right there. You see that little guy stuck on there. Let me grab a pointy stick, get my big finger out of the way. But trying to get attached from this trace to this trace, well, you'd say, well, why don't they just stick that on the top? Well, trying to get this on, there's already parts there. They want to bodge across, and a lot of times they can't get a circuit trace run across on the bottom of the board down here. They can't get a trace from one side to another. There might be something in the way. Usually another circuit trace. So they'll do stuff like that. A lot of times they just need to they've found that they needed to add a resistor across the component on the top, and instead of respinning the whole board, adding holes to, basically, like I say, relaying out the board so that part can be stuck on the top. Or sometimes it's just circuit restrictions where there's traces in the way. They can't get a trace from here to here without redoing the entire design of the entire radio. So they can just, stick it on here on the underside. Stick a part, down here. But, like I say, so nothing fancy going on here. Now, interestingly, the weather portion of this radio, if you're familiar with a lot of the newer radios, the FM circuit or the weather band portion, 160 megahertz section of the radio, in modern radios like in Cobras and Unidens, good example, they're on a little tiny board. It's all surface mount components. This isn't like that. And it's, so, some people are probably saying, well, this is probably the weather section over here. Well, yes, it is, but that's not it. It's actually spread throughout the entire radio. These three tunable transformers right here are actually all part of the FM circuit for the weather channel. Actually, you can even see there's a coax cable right here, this little yellow guy that runs back into this circuit. So all of this circuit in here is all the weather. So, yeah, audio circuit over here, the FM weather channel over here, and then pretty much all your AM radio over here and around the back. But yeah, so these are all peaked for maximum receive sensitivity, and then a bunch of frequency adjustments are done here. Different coils for two of the channels, and then crystal. So you actually adjust the crystal, or not crystal. Well, you are adjusting the crystal. It's actually hiding underneath there. But you adjust the ceramic trimmer on the one channel that centers that crystal on the frequency, and then you adjust these two tunable transformers then to bring in the other two channels. Same thing for maximum sensitivity, but that's actually what you're doing. They're just tacking in some extra inductance into the oscillator circuit on there. But yeah, nice little radio. Like I say, I was kind of interested to see that. Like I said, I just don't see stuff like this. It's kind of a low buck radio, not ultra high speed. It's kind of nice. I mean, it's not super fancy. It's easy to work on. Just one thing to keep in mind, if you work on one of these, make sure when you're trying it out, you actually have a electric condenser microphone that requires 5 volts. Or somewhere around there, it's close to 5 volts. This takes a powered microphone. So like I say, if you turn this radio on, stick a voltmeter on pin 2 right there, you're going to see voltage. And also keep that in mind, you could burn up a microphone by plugging it in there, because there's voltage present there that you're not going to normally find in most radios. So there you go. There's just a really quick overview of the Uniden PRO538W 40 channel CB with weather channels.